Yo, what's up? Welcome to another episode of Mostly Low Budget Movie Reviews. I am your host, Clarence. Thank you for tuning in. You know, sometimes when I look at movie releases, I wonder a few things, like who greenlit this or who thought this was a good idea? Now, in some of those cases, I turn out to be wrong and the movie's pretty good, but not usually. In today's episode, I have one of those kind of movies. It's called White Men Can't Jump, which is a remake or reboot or reimagining, however you want to put this, of a 1992 movie starring Wesley Snipes and Woody Harrelson. And I'm an old man, so I remember going to the movies to actually see this with my friends, and it was an instant classic. I mean, I just watched this again for like the 10th time last year. Now, I don't know anyone or hadn't read anything about people demanding a remake of this movie. It's not that I have anything against remakes. In fact, remakes can be good, but they have to bring something different to the table. Meaning you can't just do basically the same movie and put a new coat of paint on it and count on the nostalgia of it all to kind of, make up for it and make it a good movie. So is this a reimagining of a classic any good? Well, what is this one about? Well, we start out watching this high school recruit give this interview with his father, and he's touted as being the next big thing. Fast forward 10 years, and we see the same dude now playing pickup ball. And he's the Kamal. He's the black half of the equation. Then this white dude, played by Jack Harlow, comes in, dressed crazy, training some kid. He starts talking trash and gets, to bet in some kind of shootout. Of course, this is a hustle, and he wins easily. This ends with, Jeremy, who is Jack Harlow's character. And we learn a bit about his background and why he's just hustling instead of playing real ball. Spoiler free, won't get into that. Meanwhile, Kamal, who again is the former phenom, has an incident at work and gets his hours cut. So he decides to track down Jeremy to partner with him to play in his tournament. But in the meantime, they're going to do some side hustling to earn some cash. And that's pretty much where I'll stop, because from there, before the tournament, we learned some stuff about them and their basketball dreams and why they died and what's going on in their lives currently and what makes them different and, how they become friends and, ultimately play in this tournament or whatever. So what did the pros think? Well, they came in at a 28% on 61 reviews, with the audience at a fresh 70% on over 100 reviews on the Rotten scale. But what did I think? Well, let me get to the positives. Now, they did a good job. They paid homage to the original with some classic scenes, like Jeremy getting that backdoor cut for the dunk, or the scene where they're playing in the hood and the dude goes in his car to get a weapon, or when Rosie Perez straddles Woody Harrelson in the car and they're driving down the street. I mean, there's some classic things they reshot, and I appreciate those. But this is its own thing mostly, and they try to capture the general vibe while kind of, like I said, remixing and adding a few different elements to the story. I also appreciated the father-son arc with Kamal and his father, played by Lance Reddick, rest in peace. I assume things didn't work out for him for a certain reason, and it had something to do with his father. However, their relationship wasn't what I assumed it was, and I appreciated that conversation ultimately. And unlike the original, where it's only clear how Wesley's character is going to turn out, and he has pretty much his issues resolved, this one wraps everything up in a nice little neat bow. There's no questions here. Oh, and shout out to Tyler Hero. I'm a Miami Heat fan. He has a small cameo in this movie, which was cool. I like that. But let me get to these negatives. Now, two things that made the original great. The comedy elements and the basketball. Now, the basketball in the original wasn't great, but it did have a kind of a gritty feel of that pickup game. And the stuff they did, it was actually actors doing it. So I don't know how many takes it took them to get them to do it right, but clearly you could see it was them making the shots and dribbling and cutting and doing all the stuff that they did, even if it was a lot of that in slow motion. Now, the basketball scenes in this movie are just absolute trash. Outside of a couple of scenes, there was a couple that were okay, But they do mostly that thing where you see in basketball TV shows, really on TV, where they show the guy shooting and then they cut to the basket to show the ball going in. So you really don't see them actually do the stuff. They do certain things and then the ball's going in. And it's choreographed very poorly where dudes are pretending to get crossed over and just jumping out of the way or falling down dramatically or, allowing the ball to get stolen. It's just, we've come a long way in shooting basketball in these types of scenes. So I was really shocked at how bad the basketball really was. In the comedy, the original was witty with the roasts and the mama jokes. And then, they had the whole black and white thing dynamic and they had their timing down. And all of this just feels forced in an original in this one. It's just not as funny as they think it is. The jokes are feeling really dated. And while I appreciate the attempt to remix the characters, again, we get into cliche land and they just don't feel like real people. None of the couples had any kind of chemistry. The acting is very subpar, but they don't get any help from the script either. The writing just isn't strong enough to make up for the overall lack of talent in the cast. Jack Harlow's just okay. But yeah, this just did not come together the way they think it did. Because if they thought it came together well, they released it, so I'm assuming they thought this was a great finished product. But yeah, it's really not. Let me bottom line this one for you. Did I enjoy it? And no, I did not. I will put this one right at a 35% on the Rotten scale. This is a reimagining with a few throwbacks to the originals, which was nice. But all of this just feels dated because the concept itself is dated. Now, back in 92, you can kind of pull this off, but now this premise just falls flat. No one's assuming that the white dude can't play anymore, which makes the whole hustling element in the movie unrealistic in today's climate, because if a white guy shows up in a court with a black guy basically, and they're talking trash and challenging people to play for money, I'm going to assume that they can actually play. I'm not going to assume that the white guy can't play. That just doesn't make any sense. And the setup in the original, although again, this is a classic hustle, pick my teammate. Guys looks around the crowd for the dorkiest guy, and they pick that guy. That was way more effective than what they did here. They would show up in this movie and kind of just talk trash and get a game and bet a bunch of money. No one's falling for that. Then there was this one scene I didn't even get into during the review where, they go to the hood and, you can't swing on certain people and then just get away with it. So I'm going to leave that alone. I'm not going to get into that. Spoiler free. I won't get into any of that. Basically, they just tried way too hard to try to be funny. The basketball wasn't good. It was a big swing and a miss. And again, who was asking for this remake? The original was just fine the way it was. There was nothing they could have added or done better. And that showed right from the beginning. When they started with the way that the original started, they kind of remixed that scene a little bit. And I saw what I was in for. I was like, this is just going to be a much lesser version, more dated image of what I had originally. And yeah, I suggest you just skip this one and just go watch the original. If you haven't seen the original, it's way better than this one. If you have seen it, just watch that one again and don't bother watching this one. With that being said, I'm going to close it out right here. If this is your first time, don't make it your last. This has been a Podbean production, mostly low-budget movie reviews with Clarence. I appreciate the support. Thank you very much. Not sure when I'm going to get another review up. Been busy. There's a lot of NBA action going on, which is why I've been late on this review. But I definitely always got content, so when the games kind of break up and it's not every day, I kind of will have more time to get some content up. It's not that I haven't been watching content, just having time to write reviews and record. So thank you very much again. I appreciate you guys, and I'll see you next time. Peace.